I'm Trinidadi, and let's queer up faith. Viral church call videos raise questions about welcoming registered sex offenders to services. A self-described lesbian, pro-choice Army veteran in Kentucky, Nikaylee Monroe, who is also a TikTok creator, is drawing widespread attention with a series of viral videos testing how churches respond when asked whether a registered child sex offender could attend Sunday services. In the recorded calls, Monroe tells church staff she is married to a registered child sex offender and asks whether her family would face any issues attending worship. Monroe says the calls are part of what she describes as social experiments. Since June, she has posted more than 60 videos under the title Testing Your Church PDF Files, using internet slang for pedophile. According to Monroe's playlist, only one church featured in the series, the Blessed Sacrament Catholic Church in Dallas, declined the request. The videos have sparked debate online about church safety policies, child protection, and LGBTQ+ inclusion. Monroe rejects claims that her project targets Christians. She said, quote, "I'm just exposing the bad seeds within the church. I love the good Christians," end quote. Kentucky law allows one-party consent for recording phone calls, making Monroe's recordings legal. Churches generally may choose whether to exclude registered sex offenders, admit them without restrictions, or require behavioral agreements, depending on their policies and applicable state laws. This story is a bit confusing to me in that I'm not sure what her end game is. If she's trying to kind of conflate how churches treat LGBTQ plus people and also pedophiles, it seems like these two things are being put, juxtaposed next to each other, which they're kind of two separate questions. So I'm not exactly sure what she's trying to get out of it. But then also, I remember growing up in a very Protestant, Christian, conservative church and working for the church as clergy till I was about 28. We did deal with some of these issues when there was a person in the church who might have been known to have committed some kind of crime or was on a registry. Like, how do you handle such a thing? And it's just interesting, like, if you look at the text of the gospel itself, the Bible, everything is forgiven, right? And, somebody who has turned their life around, should be able to be at the church, but at what level it's a very interesting question of, like, how you deal with that now with people with children. We have all sorts of precautions now in nurseries and stuff, but there's always other adults present. But, like, do you take somebody who has had some kind of mishap, maybe they were 19 years old or 20 years old and was dating somebody who was younger, and then, maybe it was the Romeo and Juliet laws, and this person is now on a registered sex offender list, but it's like, it wasn't like some kind of violent rape or something like that, or child molestation. Like, how does the church handle that? And I guess she's trying to I'm thinking that that the church, she feels, should be forgiving to people and embracing those who have committed some sort of situation. That's not what you're getting?
Not what I got.
Okay, what are you getting?
Well, I would say first, yes, you're right. You say conflate. I would say she's putting the dots up there and leaving us to connect them without her having to libel herself or slander anything. I think that all churches, religious places should have on their webpage have their policy towards sex offenders, right? This is what we do allow. We do counseling if they want to be part of it, whatever they want, or we don't have them in, or we let them come in and teach Sunday school. Whatever it is, it should be on their website. That kind of transparency. As for what, and yes, you're right, the Romeo and Juliet cases, but those are by far a minority. Most statutory races get kicked down to a level that doesn't require registration, right?
Okay.
For people who commit those types of things, an 18-year-old with their 16-year-old girlfriend, right? Most of those just don't get prosecuted or don't end up with people on a list. Most of these people have assaulted someone under 13. Most have done rapes, very violent sexual assaults. That's the main part of the people that are affected. And I think, by getting back to your question, what is she trying to say? I think she's also trying to say, have churches learned their lesson from the pre-scandals of the 2000s, or these mega church pastors that keep getting called out for assault or cheating or something like that. I think that's the question she wants us to ask. And I don't care as long as it weakens religious hold on America's through a little bit of common sense. I'm all for what.
But isn't that an interesting question, though? I mean, if the Bible and in Christianity, you're supposed to be their solution to these things is draw closer to God, right? Now, maybe people on the outside who are not part of that religion are like, no, I don't want a sex offender. I don't want, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in whatever. But if their doctrine says that the way to full restoration of anybody is to be able to, be at church and to draw closer to God, then what would the church answer be? And that's what I don't know what she's trying to
Christian
get.
hypocrisy is not new.
But I think you're really pointing at something that I don't necessarily have the words for, but I see the contextual framework that you're working with. She's actually showing two things at once to two separate audiences. On the one audience, to the John audience, to the one where to the people that say anything that shows Christian hypocrisy, great. I like anything that'll take them down, good. So they say that a sex offender can come to church, good. That makes them look really bad. That's great because it shows that they have no morals. It shows that they don't care about, child sex abuse. That's one way to look at it. But another way would be, they really are true Christians because they're such true Christians that they believe that with the love of Jesus Christ, that even if you are a registered sex offender, you're being honest about it, you're letting us know, and of course you would be welcomed because this is a welcoming space. So there's two things that are happening at the same time, and I think two things can be true at once, and I don't think either one is true because I would not want to be in a church with a registered sex offender. I would not feel comfortable. But how many times are we in a room with registered sex offenders that we don't even know that we're in rooms with registered sex offenders? So number one, she's actually, if this were really true, she's actually doing the church a service by letting them know, hey, my husband's a registered sex offender, so they could do with that information what they want. And for, most of those churches, they said, yeah, come on in. But how do you know that they're not having a conversation with maybe the leadership? Hey, we got a call from a woman who wants to join us today. She let us know that her husband is a registered sex offender. How do you know that the pastor did? And I'm not making excuses for Christian pastors because they've transgressed quite a bit. But how do you know that they didn't have a meeting amongst themselves to say, hey, he's welcomed here because God's love encompasses everybody, but let's keep an eye on that guy. If you see him too close to children, let's move him away. Or, hey, brother, keep an eye on this one. Just, just shadow him a bit. You never know the internal dynamics because at the end of the day, a church is a religious organization, but it's also a society of people and it's a communal organization. So and it's political. So you don't know how things get maneuvered politically in these organizations. So I'm surprised that the only church that did not want to accept this person was a Catholic church, which kind of made me chuckle because the people that are most in the public consciousness, at least, are Catholic priests that are usually accused of transgressing against minors. But usually they don't get the justice that they deserve because it's usually kept in house. So I'm surprised that he was denied, that this fictional person would have been denied access. So to wrap it up, I could go either way with this. I think on the one hand, inviting a registered sex offender to a church, while it would give me the ick, I can understand it from a Christian ethos. On the other hand, it's a complicated world that we live in and nobody should have to be sexually abused. And if this were a real person, I hope he served his time and he learned his lesson and he got therapy, and keep an eye out for those people and don't let strange people around your children that you don't know. This There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by sharing them, subscribing to Queer News Tonight.